Alright, I had a question from somebody on the Mauser 7184. In the past, I do this as a hobby, and when people ask me a technical question, the past few years I never really had time. I'm trying to answer questions for people if I can, but again, it's another difficult one. The guy was asking it, I wondered why, and then when I looked at the rifle, now I know why. Alright, first thing you should do, I strongly suggest anybody who fools with any of the antique guns should buy this book. Okay, Disassembly Guide. Alright, I do a review on it and I use it quite often. It's like $40, $30, $40, and it's basically what a gunsmith charges you per hour to do any work. So it's well worth it. Get the book. If you get the book, you'll be able to strip your 7184 Mauser down to this point. Okay? And the guy's question was on the trigger. He had a broken trigger. So the book will take you this far. Okay? And when it gets to the receiver group where the trigger and stuff is, it says it doesn't go any further into the assembly. So, let's take a look at the trigger mechanism. Okay, this is it right here. Now, you said your trigger's broken. Is it this piece? Because you have the trigger, you have the spring-loaded bar here, and if you notice, there's two pins. The one pin will hold this trigger with like a little dog bone on the back there, and there's a sear that goes up into the receiver, probably the second pin in there will take that out. So I think this rear pin, if you drift this out, you'll be able to get the trigger out. And if that's what's broken, this piece is busted off, then it should be pretty simple to put it in there, because all this kind of does is cam on there, and then the sear, which is a separate piece in here, which trips the bolt. That's another piece. Try to get it to where you can see it move. You see it moving right there? That's a separate piece on this other thing that's got the spring load. It's spring loaded and attached to the magazine lifter mechanism ensemble here. As you see, is all tightly fitted little pressed in pieces. Then we get to the other side where there's all this real thin, delicate, flat spring-like stuff with the magazine cutoff part, which if you look at mine, I believe it's broken, but it stays together and kind of works. I had this apart. You don't really want to screw with these, and if you break this thing here, this little flat steel piece, you can't get the bolt out, and I've seen some with these snapped off. So I think that's one piece, but as you see, it's busted there. So I just found this on this example, and it's all tied in to all of this. There's a couple screws here that are holding God knows what in there. I haven't disassembled this. So my advice is, if this piece, the trigger itself, is broken, you should be able to drift that rear pin out. Get another person to help you. It's probably going to be a two-person thing. Set it down, get a little piece of wood to support it, have the other person hold it, get up underneath there, and then drift that little pin out, and you should get the trigger out and be able to just swap it in there. You might have to get a nail or something to line the holes up because it is spring loaded. If this other part here, whatever this thing is, where the spring is in this piece, and I really don't know how this is attached. Unless you drift out, you may be able to drift out this other pin and get the sear out, and then this whole thing might come out, because it doesn't look like, let me look. I'm going to look at this for a second and get back to you. Alright, like I said, it should be easy to get this trigger piece out and the sear. Okay. Now this other part, which has the spring behind it and holds this together, you can't see it because it's ground, but there's some sort of pin. It goes here, and when you pull this off on this plate, you can see where the pin is there to drift it out. So I don't know if there's a pin that runs through this part that can be drifted out, and then this unit comes out that holds the trigger and the sear. That may be another way of doing it. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go hammer and disassemble this to find out. But you may be able to, if it's just the trigger that's broken, you may be able to just drive the one pin out and get a replacement trigger, and you should be good. That's another thing. Finding replacement parts for these guns is going to be almost impossible. Okay, so if you do have to get into a disassembly, make sure you got the right tools and be very careful, because if you break anything or screw it up any worse than it is, you're going to be you're going to have problems.